Ooh.
Oh, those people like
All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays. They work in your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. Network. All sports, all plays. Network. We on top of our game. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays.
Hello, and welcome to the All Sports All Play Network. This is the Wednesday Sports Minute. I am joined today by my tag team from out west. We got Ace and we got J-Mac. How you guys doing tonight?
I am fantastic.
All right, and then I am going to go by Midwest Man Brandon tonight. I don't know why, just thought it was cool. So, to get off, to start off the show, J-Mac, how about we talk a little toffee here?
Yeah. Hey, I'll tell you, we got a sponsor. It's Black Market Toffee. So I asked her when she wanted to sponsor why she calls it Black Market. It's because it's that good. Like, it should be Black Market. It should be not available to buy in stores. It's really good. It's ran by Jamie Kanagi. And I'm telling you, this stuff is good. I've had it myself. And it's decently priced, too. I mean, you're talking about you can get a half pound of toffee for $15. Like, think about that for a minute, a half a pound of toffee. And if you buy it, I'm telling you, you're going to have to hide it because you're going to want to eat all of it. So if you don't want to eat it all at once and you're trying to watch the weight a little bit, but want good toffee, you're going to want to eat it and then, put some away. Not try to eat it all at the same time because it's probably going to happen.
All right. And then
I'm sorry. You can catch her on Facebook, Black Market Toffee on Facebook. Again, Jamie Kanagi.
All right. So we just closed out the Viewer of the Month. Ace, how can people watching become Viewer of the Month for December?
Well, let me tell you what, it's so simple. So as people have seen now, we already have 2 Viewer of the Months that we've had with the previous month. And our first one was none other than our very own Brandon Herrera. Now, how did Brandon Herrera win his? Well, it was that simple. All you have to do is come on our show, leave some comments on our show, share, and comment. And then at the end of the month, we add everything up. And the person that has the most comments, guess what? They become our Viewer of the Month.
All right. And if you don't like to share your comments or watch the show and don't think your comments are going to get heard, J-Mac, how can you?
Well, I'll tell you, you can buy one. And you know what? I'm gonna make an announcement. You guys might not even know. I believe we have about 6 or 7 of the shirts left that are $14.99. So I think we could still run those for $14.99 right now. But it's going to cost shipping and handling on top of that. But again, I think we got a few left of those. So hit us up and see if we don't have any of those left. You can still buy one for $25 plus shipping and handling. But yeah, there's ways to get shirts without winning it.
All right.
And before we get started, just really quick, I want to let Freddie Henderson know. No, Freddie, you cannot win a shirt. I'm sorry.
No,
delusional people can't win a shirt.
Freddie needs one that says delusional on it, or I pass, one of the two.
Right.
All right. So, with that all being said, our first topic of the night: top 5 Washington football team quarterbacks. J Mac, we'll start with you though.
Okay, yeah, I'll take it first. A couple of guys might surprise you. For you guys, they've had a pretty good history. Not recently, but you go back in history, and there's a lot of guys that played pretty well for them. So number 5, I got Doug Williams, and he may not have been super talented, might not have the numbers, but he did win a Super Bowl for him. He was the first African-American quarterback to win a Super Bowl. I don't think you can leave him off the list. Again, that's my opinion, but I just don't think you can. Number 4, I got Mark Rippon. Again, he had a good team. Joe Gibbs was his quarterback, his coach. He was the quarterback. They had a good team, made a couple Super Bowl runs, and I don't think you can count that out. Sonny Jorgensen, I got at number 3. He leads the team in some all-time records for passing, and played super well for them. Number 2, I got Joe Theismann. And I think Joe Theismann could have been number 1 and would have been, maybe top 20 all time if he hadn't had that gruesome injury to end his career. But I got Theismann at 2, and I have Sammy Baugh at number 1. I don't think you can go anywhere but him for number 1. You guys could prove me wrong on that, but I think that he's clear-cut number 1 for me.
All right. A couple shockers there, but we'll see what Ace has. Ace always comes up with some shockers for us. So go ahead, Ace. Your top 5.
Well, it's actually kind of funny, though, because when you look at my top 5 is actually pretty similar to what J-Max is, except there's my first 2 in the order are just a little bit different. Now, you had J-Mac, you had Doug Williams at number 5.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I thought that Doug Williams was just a little bit better than Mark Rippon. That's why I put Mark Rippon actually at number 5. I'm not taking anything away from Mark Rippon. Mark Rippon was a fantastic quarterback. But now, as you talked about with these classic Washington quarterbacks, we can look at what's happening in the nowadays time. And with these Washington quarterbacks now, one thing that they have in common now is that they have like a bad omen about them. If you are a Washington quarterback, for some reason you end up breaking your leg. And it all started with Joe Theismann. Now, let's go to number 4. Obviously, my number 4 is Doug Williams. Doug Williams has to be on this list. He won him a Super Bowl. He had a pretty good team around him, but in that Super Bowl, he played fantastic, so you can't really take that away from him. Now my number 3, Sonny Jorgensen. I almost put Sonny Jorgensen actually at number 4, and I almost put Doug Williams at number 3, but I thought that Doug Williams was not quite as good as Sonny Jorgensen. And then my number 2 actually went with Joe Theismann. So that was the same as you with Joe Theismann. If Joe Theismann would not have gotten hurt, I truly believe that Joe Theismann actually would have won multiple rings. Because I do agree with you that Theismann, I don't know if I would put him in the top 20, but he definitely would have been up there statistical wise, because Theismann was close to being that best Washington quarterback of all time, but because of his injury, that's why I could not put him up there at number 1. Now my number 1 obviously is Sammy Baugh. How could you not put Sammy Baugh at number 1? Sammy Baugh is that guy that he was basically the first ever quarterback that the team tailored around him, around his skills. That's what they did with Sammy Baugh. They looked at Sammy Baugh and said, what's going to make him successful? And we have to put those type of players around him. And that's exactly what they did. Sammy Baugh was the first one to have that done for him, which really helped out his career. So that's my top 5 Washington quarterbacks.
All right.
Standing there. Yes.
Yeah.
I
can't disagree with them. I got, pretty much what you guys have just said. So I'm just going to rattle them off. Doug Williams, number 4 or 5. Rippon, number 4. I put Sammy Bogg, number 3. I think if he would have played strictly quarterback, he'd definitely be up there. I know he was playing a lot of tailback early in his career, but he still put up passing numbers, which was outrageous. I got Jorgensen, number 2, and then I'm going to go with Theismann, because I think if Theismann wouldn't have got hurt, he'd definitely be number 1. So that is my top 5. All right, so moving on.
Hold on, Freddie, you're asking about the Giants, homie. Well, guess what? Next week we will talk about the Giants. It's this week we don't talk about the Giants, man. So guess what? Next week you'll have to watch to see where I'm going to put Eli Manning in Giants history, because I'm not going to answer that question this week. So stay tuned to next week and you'll find out.
Yeah, there's a little insight for next week there, Freddie. All right, topic number 2. Top 5 sports moments of all time. Ace, I'll start with you.
All right, so looking at these top 5 sports moments of all time, there was a ton of them. I mean, there was a lot of them that came to mind, whether they'd be bad sports moments or good in particular. So when it comes to that, I think that one of the top 5 sports moments of all time, and I'm going to jump on the NFL side. That's what I'm going to start with. And that was when the New York Giants, yes, Freddie, I said it. The New York Giants took on the undefeated New England Patriots, and the Giants were able to beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl to prevent them from completing their perfect season. So that way the Dolphins were able to keep their champagne on ice. So, Freddie, I'm going to go ahead and bam. And, yes, the Eli pass off the helmet. Yes, but do you actually know who that was that he completed that pass to? Yes, it was David Tyree. David Tyree.
Yeah.
So that's
who never made another catch in his NFL career.
but it was a famous helmet catch. So that's why I had to put that at number 5, because I'll tell you what, I was not a gigantic Giants fan. I never have been. But in that Super Bowl, I was actually pulling for the Giants, basically based off of that. Yeah, right. David Tyree. Yeah, okay, so my number four sports moment of all time, this is something that you definitely have to respect, and that was Klay Thompson. And when I'm talking about Klay Thompson, I'm talking about the time he put up 37 points in one quarter in the third quarter. How is that not one of the all-time great sports moments? I mean, that he was lights out in that quarter, completely lights out. He went 13 for 13 altogether, but he went 9 for 9 behind the arc in one quarter. That is ridiculous. That is not something that you see. And yes, Freddie, I completely agree with you. The MJ flu game, but that was not in my top 5. I'm sorry. It wasn't there. But Klay Thompson, because how could you not have Klay Thompson in there? He scored 37 points in one quarter. How many times have you seen? You've never seen it. So that has to be in the top 5. Now, my number 3, you guys might be shocked that I put this, but it was when Conor McGregor made his boxing debut and actually lost to Mayweather. And I think the more surprising thing to me about that was that boxing match actually went 10 rounds. I was not expecting it to go 10 rounds. But we all kind of figured that Mayweather was going to win that fight, and he did. Definitely did. So that was my number 3. Then my number 2, for all you Cubs fans out there.
Uh-oh.
Yes, I had to put this in there. You're saying, uh-oh, right off the bat. How can you not have the Chicago Cubs ending their curse after 108 years and win the World Series? I'll tell you, so, Brandon, you may not agree with me, but even not being a Cubs fan, you had to feel good for them. Like that's just one of the things like, wow, they ended the curse after 108 years.
I actually thought Brian was going to overthrow the first baseman on that.
Right. That would have been a bad way for Chicago to lose. In all honesty, that would have been a horrible way. And then my number one moment of all time, and this is something that people will never forget because I'll tell you, it's came close so many years and people were just waiting for it. And that is when UMBC knocked off the number 1 seed Virginia when UMBC was the number 16 seed, because there was so many people that were just waiting for it to happen year after year after year after year, and it never happened. And teams kept getting close. Think of Asheville that year that they were really close, and everyone's like, oh, Asheville's going to do it. Asheville's going to be that first 16 seed to beat the 1 seed, and they just could not do it. And then we finally see UMBC knock off Virginia, and everyone's like, wow, it finally happened. And keep in mind in that game, though, too, that UMBC did not only beat Virginia, they annihilated Virginia. They beat them by 20 points. So that was a pure annihilation by UMBC.
Didn't they go on to the second round game, too?
No, I do believe they lost in round 2, but still their shining moment was still beating Virginia as a 1 seed, something that's never happened before.
Yeah.
All right, so that was my top 5.
Okay, before we move on to J-Mac, Johnny Smith had a great question or comment that I'm guessing went with the Klay Thompson comment that they interviewed his teammates and said even if they were wide open, they were still giving them the ball. So,
well, absolutely, because how could you not? The dude was on fire, 37 points in 1 quarter. How could you not? You got to keep feeding him the ball. You have to.
Exactly. All right, J-Mac, what do you got? Top 5 sports moments.
Top 5 sports moments ever. And I'm with Ace. There is so many. You cannot go wrong on this list. There is no way any of us can say the other person's wrong because there's so many you can pick from. I got some good, some bad. I think they're mostly good, but I know there's one bad in there. But number 5 is the headline is 90 in a row. And it's when the UConn women's team for the UConn Huskies won their 90th consecutive game in college basketball. That'll never be touched again. I guarantee you, no team will ever win 90 games in a row again. And that's when they had Diana Taurasi and all. They had that loaded team that just couldn't lose. They went 4 years without losing, something like it was insane, something crazy like that. Number 4, the Willie Mays over the shoulder catch. My opinion, you'll never see a baseball play better than that ever. The Andrew Jones Spider-Man catch in center field is close, but I think Willie Mays takes it with the over the shoulder catch. And that's just my opinion.
And that's actually what I was going to ask you, because I was going to say, how can you not look at that Spider-Man catch by Andrew Jones and be like, you know what, that was pretty dang close, because that's close. Something that you don't see very often.
It was close for sure.
What about Barry Bonds getting robbed by
I don't count anything Bonds did.
No.
Top 5 sports moment. Just my opinion. You're entitled to your opinion, Brandon. It's just
I was just kind of comparing. Go ahead, mate.
Number 3 is the one bad one I know I have in here, but I don't think anyone will ever forget it because it could have ended the dynasty for the Patriots. The Seahawks throw it from the 1-yard line when you have Marshawn Lynch in the backfield. What the heck? You have beast mode to hand the ball to, and you throw it. That one's got to be up there. Number 2, probably my favorite NFL play of all time, the Music City Miracle. And it set the Bills back for 18 years before they made the –
All right, so it looks like he froze up there for just a second. So Brandon, when where was I at? Oh,
Music City Miracle.
Yes, the
Music City Miracle. I mean, it set the Bills back for 18 years before they made it to the playoffs again. That's how much that play meant in for Tennessee. And My number one sports moment of all time. None of us were alive to remember this, but April 15th, 1947. And if anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, that's when Jackie Robinson
Yeah.
barrier in Major League Baseball. And that'll forever be the greatest moment, in my opinion, in sports history, because that did so much for our country to push us forward. I don't think we're all the way there. Obviously, we're not, but that was a huge, huge moment for sports, and that's my number one. So
Brandon, if I may, for just 1 sec here. All right. So J-Mac, I want to go back to your Marshawn Lynch thing here for a second too, because what I think is so funny about that is that not only did it happen to him in Seattle, but if you remember when he came out of retirement and then joined at the time was Oakland, but is now Las Vegas. When he came out and joined them, why do you think he left them too? It was not a playoff game, but it was a regular season game again. And yes, I said playoffs. Yeah, so when it came to that too, it was a regular season game, but the Raiders had the ball at the 1, and instead of handing it to Marshawn Lynch again, they passed the ball, and the Raiders lost. And so Marshawn Lynch was again upset and said, "Did you not learn anything the first time when I was with Seattle?"
absolutely.
Oh yeah, that I still don't know what the coach was thinking. So, all right. So my top 5, I got one here that is close to my heart. So I'll get to that in a little bit. But
Wow.
number 5, I'm going with the '92 Dream Team. I mean, just the collection of talent they had in the Olympics, the 11 probably greatest basketball players, and Christian Laettner. I don't know why he was on there, but
Right.
number 4, to me, probably one of the biggest wrestling matches ever. Yes, I did say wrestling. Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. That hits my childhood really hard.
Hello,
Hogan,
Josh.
by far the best. So, number 3, I got Tiger Woods down for when he won his first Masters, and then when he won it in 2009 or 2019, when he went off the 18th green and was hugging his dad, and then 2019 when he was hugging his son. I mean, those moments were just president. Number 2, I'm going with Michael Jordan after the first three-peat when he was in the locker room clutching onto that trophy, crying after I believe his dad got shot that year, and he was doing it all for his dad. Number 1, this is going to be my homer take because I was actually kind of part of this one. Kirby Puckett's retirement, and also when he passed away. I was actually at the game when they gave him his tribute, and then when he was pronounced dead, they did a little memorial outside of the dome, which I was there and actually got interviewed for. So that alone right there, to me, will never be topped. So that's why that's my number 1. So moving on. Let's see. Number 3, J-Mac, it's all yours. Your spotlight player.
All right. Now, I know everyone's heard of this guy, sort of, but I don't think anyone knows really how good he was. And my spotlight player for tonight is a guy who is in the top 20 all-time for rushing yards in NFL history, but doesn't get the respect that he should for what he did when he played. Fred Taylor. He is one of the few guys. So either of you know how many guys in the NFL history have rushed for 10,000 yards?
Not guessing.
Can you guess?
I'll go with 6.
If I had to take a round number, like the first number that popped in my head was 10.
It's actually 31, which sounds like a little more than what it is. But think about how many running backs have been in the NFL.
Yeah.
And Fred Taylor ranks 17th all-time in rushing yards with 11,695. Now, listen to these guys around him. He is less than 1,000 yards behind Jim Brown, Marshall Falk, Edgerrin James, Marcus Allen, Franco Harris, and Thurman Thomas. And what do all those guys have in common? They're all in the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Guys below him are John Riggins, who's in the Hall of Fame, O.J. Simpson, who's in the Hall of Fame. Then you have right below him, you also have Jamal Lewis, who is a Hall of Fame finalist, and Warwick Dunn, who's also a Hall of Fame finalist. And all of these guys have around the same number. Fred Taylor's never been up for the Hall of Fame. And do you think part of the reason is because he played in such a small market in his career that no one really saw what he did?
Yeah, I could see that.
But he also has 2,384 receiving yards. So he had over 14,000 yards in his career, total yardage, and 74 touchdowns in his career. He ranks top 20. He's got 16th best Florida player of all time for college. And just some of the seasons that he put up, you're talking 1,200 yards, 1,300 yards, 1,300 yards, 1,500 yards, 1,200 yards, 1,100 yards, 1,200 yards. He averaged 4.6 yards a carry for his career. He carried the ball 2,534 times, and he fumbled 14 times in his career. Anyone else find those numbers astounding, how he's not in the talks for the Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Well, the funny thing about it is, though, is, because we've kind of had this conversation for several days in our group chat to when we start talking about people who should be in the Hall of Fame, and we talk about quarterbacks, and we talk about running backs, and we say, one of the biggest thing that people look at, especially when we talked about Phillip Rivers, and we said, he was in the same draft class as Eli Manning and Roethlisberger, and we're like, Roethlisberger's going to be in the Hall of Fame, and Eli Manning, he probably will be, only based upon rings. And then people were like, Rivers won't because he doesn't have rings. And so that's going to be a big thing when you look at Fred Taylor, is they're going to look at Fred Taylor and be like, we understand he's a running back, and we completely get that. But I think that besides just playing for Jacksonville, one of his big thing is because he doesn't have one of these. And I think that that's what really hurts them in the long run, is when they don't have a ring.
I get what you're saying, but the argument doesn't make sense. There's so many things about that argument that doesn't make sense. I'm not saying that you're wrong, and I'm not saying that that's how you feel at all. I get your point. I completely am open to your point, and I understand, and I do agree with that. That when it comes to the so-called experts or the voters, that's what they look at. Mm-hmm. I just think it's completely wrong because, again, you're talking about a guy that's in the top 20 all time in rushing yards, and you've never even given him consideration for the Hall of Fame when you've got guys underneath him that didn't even make it to. Gale Sears is in the Hall of Fame, and he has 7,000 career rushing yards. It's one of those things. It's like, where do you and I get we can argue about this, and we're not going to, but I'm just making a point of like, these are the kind of things that we need to change in sports. This is the kind of thing we need to get different experts in and not base it off of something that you can't really control. Like if you're a really good player, I'm going to use Rodgers as an example. If you're a really good player, which Rodgers is top 5, top 10 all time, we're not going to argue about where he's going to be at all time. But how much can you really control about what your management goes out and does for you on getting you players so that you can win another championship? And that's my argument is it really Fred Taylor's fault that he played in Jacksonville and they never gave him any help? Like they never gave him a competent quarterback. They never gave him people that he could go and make it win a championship with. That's not really on him. And so, yeah, the experts are kind of wrong when they vote that way, in my opinion.
Yeah, and now people are understanding my point. When I come out here and I start talking about these quarterbacks that I really, really like in particular, and I don't want to get into a heated debate about it because I know how many people know I feel about that bad man, and people like, oh, how's he so bad? It's a simple fact that when your organization doesn't give you anybody around you any help, how do you expect somebody to succeed? I don't understand that, and especially when you look at the defensive side of things. When you don't have a defense, you're not going to win a championship. That's just how it is. Offense wins games, defense wins championships. So Fred Taylor, yes, he just happened to be a product of as a running back, you don't have as much control over a game as you do as a quarterback. That is one thing, because as a running back, you don't touch the ball every play on offense. You don't. As a quarterback, you do. So you have a much bigger influence over a game. And I think that's another thing that's going to hurt Fred Taylor also, is because position, ring, and everything, because he doesn't have as big influence over a game as a quarterback would.
No, Ace, I think you said it perfectly. I think the ring is going to be the one thing that's going to hold him out. But maybe down the road on this very fine network we have, maybe we have to start our own Hall of Fame somehow. So,
Right.
you there? So, with that being said, great player, spotlight player, J-Mac. All right, let's get into some sponsors here. J-Mac, tell us a little bit about Paparazzi Jewelry.
Oh, yeah, sure. Paparazzi, Suzanne's Bling. That's what she calls it, Suzanne's Bling. She has a Facebook page. She does some lives. Go out and get it. But $5 jewelry, guys, come on. We are 23 days away from Christmas. You got to get your girl something. And I'm telling you, this is some quality stuff. This is not cheap $5 jewelry. This is quality jewelry at its finest, 24/7 shopping available. So you can do it after she goes to bed. Jump online quick, order some stuff. She won't even know it's coming. You want to give her a call, it's 541-294-5218. You want to order online, it's www.paparazziaccessories.com. But the most important part of that is the code 160920. That will get you an exclusive deal as an ASAP viewer where you can get a free bracelet when you buy some earrings, or vice versa. You buy some earrings, you get a free bracelet. Either way, but you get that as an ASAP viewer. Make sure you use the code.
All right, there you go. So, people want to dive into doing their own podcast. They like what they see us do, want to do it themselves. Ace, how can they go about doing that, or how can they get some help?
Now, you can go visit Anchor if you want to get help. And now keep in mind, too, that if you cannot come on our show and watch it live, well, now remember, we do put our episodes on Anchor also. And now the only thing about Anchor, yes, you may not be able to watch us, but you can still hear us. You can still hear the audio play from our episode. So if you're like, hey, you know what? Sports Minute is on Wednesday night, but I can't watch it because I'm at work. Well, guess what? You can still hear it. Just join Anchor. And even if you're like, you know what, I do want to have my own podcast, Anchor is a great way to get started. That's how I got started, because Anchor is a brilliant way to get started, and it really helps you out. So give a shout out to Anchor.
All right. With that being said, let's move on to topic number 4. And this one, I don't know how we're going to determine this, but come up with, but all right. Strangest sports that people did not know exist.
Yeah, I've been waiting for this one.
Your sport that did not, or no one knew existed.
Who, me?
Yeah, Ace. Yep.
All right. So my sport that people didn't know existed, and I'll tell you what, some of the sports that are out there that people don't know exist, when you look at a few of these, you're like, man, these sports actually exist. This is freaking crazy. So The one sport that I actually picked that actually caught my eye, I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I actually chose chess boxing. Chess boxing is one of the more interesting things you're going to watch because you start out boxing your first round. And then after you box your first round, then the next round you sit down and you start playing chess. And then once that second round is over after you play chess, then you jump back in the ring again, you start boxing. Now the funny thing is that this is actually common in Germany, Russia, and Great Britain, but for some like this is starting to get popular in Asia too. So this makes me wonder, like, is this something that you're gonna eventually see come up in the United States? I don't know, but chess boxing. I mean, it kind of suck. Like, it would suck if you were a good boxer and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go in and box. They go, wait, round 2 is playing chess, and you're like, wait, what? I don't know how to play chess. And it's interesting too because you can lose a boxing match by losing a game of chess.
Yeah.
So you have to be smart. You have to know how to play chess, and you have to know how to box. So
Yeah.
I'm really entertained to see how big this sport is going to get. So that is the sport I went with. Crazy sport.
Well, it would have helped Nate Robinson out on Friday if he knew how to play chess, probably.
Right?
All
True
right.
story.
Yeah. You would have lasted 3 rounds. All right, J-Mac, how about you?
Y'all ready for this?
All
Because
right.
I'm telling you, you're not going to believe this one. And everyone watching is going to cringe. That's all I'm saying. Just prepare yourself. This will be the weirdest thing you've ever heard. But I swear it's real, and you could look it up. This is called ferret legging. Okay?
Ferret legging.
Ferret legging. 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 Ferret
Okay.
legging.
All right.
So what this involves, this started in the 70s in Yorkshire, England. Thank you, United Kingdom, for bringing this to us, by the way, because I'm reading this and I am like, yeah, that would never happen. So ferret legging is an endurance contest to see who can keep a ferret in their pants the longest. So male-only participants put live ferrets in their pants. They tie their pants at the ankles, placing the two ferrets inside and fastening their belts. Contestants are not allowed to wear underwear, and the ferrets must have a full set of teeth. In order to win the contest, the man must simply not care when his gets bitten. The winner is the last to release the animals. Now, here is the part. The world record, by the way, is 5 hours and 26 seconds. You tell me how you're going to take that for 5 hours. And just when you think who would watch that, the world record crowd for this is in 2010 when 2,500 people were in the crowd to watch this event in Yorkshire, England. Now tell me how much you think about ferret legging.
Oh, jeez. Wow. All right. So when I was looking this up, came across some wild ones. I think we could have did a whole show on just wacky sports ourselves. But I'm gonna go with God. I have 2. I really want to go with, but I'm gonna go with wife carrying. It's a race. You got to carry your wife, and it started in Finland in '92, I guess. And what got me is the winner of this race gets his wife's weight in beer. So yeah,
That's like a catch-22 though, Brandon, isn't it? Because you don't want her to weigh very much so you can carry her, but I'd want her to weigh a lot so I get a lot of beer. Like,
yeah, but some of the rules is I think the wife had to weigh like 108 pounds, somewhere around there, and if she weighed less, you had to have more weight on.
Right?
I think there was some kind of stipulation on that. So yeah, yeah, when I saw that, I was just like, really? So But if we had time for another one, any other ones jump out at you guys right away?
Yeah. Cardboard Tube Fighting League. I'm telling you, it exists. Guess what country invented this sport? If you had one country to guess, who would invent the Cardboard Tube Fighting League? Who would it be?
I would have to go with the United States. Honestly.
You're close. It's our neighbors to the north.
No way.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Wow.
Canada has the Cardboard Tube Fighting League.
So
that kind of jump out, unless Ace has one, was competitive sleeping.
yeah, you know what? You took that one. You took that one. I was just about to say that. I was just about to say competitive sleeping.
All right. And then another one I came across was face slapping. I mean, that was
yeah.
I don't know. I can't just stand there unless somebody slapped me in the face. I might do the ferret one though. I would do that one or the boxing and chest one. Those would be the two I would do. So
Well, so they also have. So since you did the competitive sleeping and the slapping, they also have the belly flop.
yeah. In mud, right?
It's the belly flop in mud. It's to see who can do the best belly flop in the mud, which I think is completely crazy. But before we go too deep into that, then since we have a little bit of extra time, I want to talk about some MLB a little bit since we're all some MLB fans up in here.
Okay.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and we know that Brandon Herrera is a Minnesota Twins fan, and J Mac and I are actually Atlanta Braves fans.
Okay.
We don't hold that against you, Brandon.
Yeah. Nothing against you,
we
buddy.
picked it 91. That's all that matters.
Right. Nothing against you. So, I figured we can go ahead and kind of great Russia for that. All right,
that
there
was
you go.
probably the clapping one.
Right. I would probably do the competitive sleeping. Hey, you know what? I know some people who would love to do the competitive sleeping. Actually, my best friend would mess around would actually be a great competitive sleeper.
Yeah.
He could sleep for hours and hours and hours. He could probably sleep the whole day if he could. So yes, he would make a great competitive sleeper. So I want to give a shout out to him on that one. So I want to hop into this a little bit, and the thing I want to touch on is the first one I want to touch on is Trevor Bauer. When it comes to Trevor Bauer, I will go ahead and I will kind of want to ask J-Mac. So, J-Mac, you know that Trevor Bauer is a hot commodity. Everybody wants Trevor Bauer. So, in your opinion, where do you see Trevor Bauer going? Because we know pretty much any team can use pitching.
Man, it's tough. It's tough to say. I personally would like to see him stay in Cincinnati, but I don't think that's going to happen. And I don't want to see him go to a big market team, so I don't want to say anyone in New York. Go with a sleeper team, like a and if he ended up with the Twins would make some noise. I'm just saying. They'd have a great rotation. I'd love to see him in Atlanta, but we don't have room for him anymore. So,
right. Yeah, we don't now.
That's not going to happen. He'll probably end up with the Dodgers.
Yeah, don't. Oh, man, you just had to say the Dodgers. When you're talking about one of those surprising teams, the one team that I was thinking, like one of the small, I would love to see him in a small market team. And so when it comes to a small market team, I'm thinking somebody like the Rays or Oakland, but I don't think he would go to anywhere like that. I would love to. Can you imagine him playing with the Rays? As good as they were this year, he would make that pitching staff so much better with a Blake Snell and a Trevor Bauer.
Well, that's if they don't move Snell.
Huh?
I mean, that's if they don't move Snell. Snell's reportedly wanted out of there.
Well, I mean, would you after what they did to him? After what they did to him in the World Series, how would you not want out of there? That was pure
Oh.
ridiculous. And obviously Nate wants him to come to Texas because he's a Texas Rangers fan. But you know what, Nate? No.
Nate,
Yeah.
you can't comment on the show, and then it's not fair if you comment and you get to throw your own comments up on the screen.
No, I
But
agree
he's
with
not
you
going to
guys.
Texas. Why would he go
He's
to
not.
Texas? What's in Texas? What other player there is going to bring him to Texas?
Oh, Nathan Great's in Texas. I mean, but,
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, that's enough
Yeah.
to bring him to Texas.
Right.
but no,
No, absolutely.
I really do not want to see him in New York, and I know there was a report out there that they're in talks. Yeah, I would agree. I would love to see him in Minnesota. That would definitely be our ace. But I have a feeling the Twins are kind of not going to do it, and for some reason, I think they're going to kind of blow up this team. I don't know what's telling me that, but I don't know. I think this COVID-19 kind of hit them hard in the pocketbooks.
But we all know 100% that usually what ends up happening is when you get a big time name like this, what ends up happening? They either end up going to the Dodgers, they go to the Yankees, they go to one of the teams that can go out and spend all this money, and they don't even care because they have it all. So they're willing to give them whatever they want because they can and they will. And that is the thing. So my thing is this. Do you guys feel like in baseball there's that lack of competitive edge because of unfair the salary cap can be? So Brandon, I want to hear from you first on that one. Do you feel like there's a lack of competitive edge because of the salary cap issue in baseball?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think there needs to be a salary cap, even though when the Colorado Pollard was the owner, he was considered one of the most richest baseball owners, but he was the world's biggest tightwad when it came to spending money. His sons, one wants to spend money, the other doesn't. And the one that doesn't has the majority of the ownership. So, I mean, I've been saying for years that baseball needs a salary cap. I mean, these salaries are outrageous. And, yeah, as a player, I mean, yeah, somebody offers me what they get paid, yeah, I'm going to sign with them. But then the owners are coming back and saying, oh, you know, we need to cut back on these salaries. Well, you're the guys that are signing them. And typically when the Yankees or Boston or the Giants sign somebody with big name for a big ticket price, that's when the other teams start throwing, oh, we need a salary cap. It's like, well, duh.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, I would love the Twins to go out and, you know, throw the money at Bauer, but it ain't going to happen.
No, and so going on that for a second to when we talk about, you know, teams wanting to be able to go out and sign everybody, but some of them can't because they are such a small market team. But the one team that I do want to touch on is the LA Angels. Because if you look at the LA Angels look at all the players that they sign or do have in general. So think about like the Mike Trout and the Andrelton Simmons and the Ohtani and Anthony Rendon and just guys in general like that. And so since I asked you the last question, so J-Mac, do you think it is time for the Angels to be like, you know what, we're not winning anything with these guys that we've already got. We got all these big name guys. So do you think that is basically time for the Angels to sell? Just look at all these guys, be like, you know what? Let's start from scratch. Let's rebuild. Let's sell. Let's trade Mike Trout. Let's get rid of Simmons and Rendon and basically start from scratch.
Well, yeah, it only makes sense because if you don't get something for these guys, they're going to walk in free agency. You really want a guy to come in, play as good as he can, like Mike Trout, and then the end of his career, if he's got an out clause, because a lot of guys have that, those options where he can be after the 5th year, he could just be like, you know what, I'm out of here. And he walks out and goes to another team. What did you get for him? Nothing. You got nothing. He just walked out and you got to start over. So at least if you sell now, you sell high. Well, these guys are worth something. You can do what the Atlanta Braves did. and I might sound like a homer on this, but I can't tell you enough. And two of their best players right now, and the way they're playing, you have Ozzy Albies and you have Ronald Acuna Jr. They are homegrown minor league talent that grew up in the minor league system in Atlanta. But you got both of those guys on big trades with other teams. And you can't stress that enough, like how much those young players might not pay off for 5 or 6 years, but 5 or 6 years from now, you can actually be a top team. And you got to sell high on some of those players and get something in return, because otherwise they walk and you get nothing.
Yeah, and I will say that is one thing that being an Atlanta Braves fan, I will say that that's one thing that I truly respect, that I know every single year, as Braves fan, we always said, how come we don't go out and sign an Anthony Rendon? How come we don't go out and trade for Mike Trout? How come we don't do this or do that? Well, now you kind of see why we don't. When you look at a Freddie Freeman and an Ozzy Albies and a Christian Patchy, it's because of the simple fact that all these guys we had in minor leagues, we have brought them up, we have developed them in our farm system, and so we don't have to put out all this money for them because we have made the trades. Now, I feel like more teams should do this, but a lot of teams want to buy the championship. Now, some teams can succeed at doing that, like the Dodgers have. The Dodgers have been able to go out and spend all that money, get all these big name players, and then finally win one after all this time. But that's why I brought up the Angels, because the Angels have done the same thing. The Angels, year after year after year, try and sign all these big name guys. They don't get it done. And Mike Trout has been there for a long time now. Anthony Rendon just signed last year. They still haven't done anything with him. They went out and signed a Julio Teheran. Oh my God, was that horrible? I'm glad he was no longer with Atlanta, because that guy was just freaking horrible. But that's why I'm saying at some point as GMs, you have to realize when it's time to sell. And right now it's completely time to sell. Now, Brandon, I'll go to you since you're a Minnesota fan. Do you like the fact? Would you like to see Minnesota spend big time money on free agency, not knowing exactly what you're going to get? Or would you like Minnesota to develop players and bring them up and call them up as you feel like they're ready?
God, it's tough. I mean, because the Twins honestly they're irrelevant in the mid 2000s when they brought some talent up, but they're lacking the veteran leadership. When they won in '91, they had the veterans with a few rookies. They brought in Jack Morris, that helped them. Right now, a lot of Twins fans, let's go spend the money. Let's go get what we got. We got a good group of talent around. In the long run, they keep saying that the farm system we have is nice, but yet I think they bring up the guys too early, or they keep them down too late, and we don't get that mixture that we need. So, but if it was up to me, homegrown talent, you can't beat that, and then the player, I believe that the players would think, you invested in me, I'm going to invest in you, and let's make a run. So, long run, I think you got to go with homegrown talent.
And I completely now don't get me wrong, because I'm not saying that a team should not go out and get a veteran. I'm not saying that at all, because I do feel like you do need to go out and sign maybe, one or two veterans in free agency to bring them in. It can even be a longtime veteran that you can bring in off the bench, because what does a longtime veteran do? He can come in and actually show these young guys and be like, hey, this is how you should be doing this. This is the best way of handling a situation so yes, you do need those type of veterans who can come in and let's say when AJ Przinsky came and played with Atlanta, he was able to help the catchers by being like, hey, you know what, you're doing this good, but you can improve by doing this. And so those are the type of people you need. Even a pitching staff. Yeah, you don't want to have all basically rookies on your pitching staff. You definitely don't want that. Having one or two veterans on a pitching staff is fine. That's probably the best way to do it. So, J-Mac, I'm going to get your opinion on this one too. Do you like the whole going out and signing all these veterans, or do you like the draft and develop?
Oh, I think it depends on when you make the decision. Like, so if a guy comes up and he has a good year and then you give him a huge contract, is he going to live up to that contract? He probably doesn't care much if he already has the money, to be completely honest. But if you go out and get a guy that's been solid, not great, I'm not talking 40 homers a year, but if you go out and get a guy that's hit 20, 25 homers a year and he's driving in 80 to 90 runs a season for the last 4 years, you can expect he's probably going to give you that production. And so I think you can't look really always at high price or the big splash guys. You have to look at the solid guys. That's what the Oakland A's have done for years. They go out and they get these guys that just produce and they hit and they can play defense. So I'm all about the Oakland A's style of money ball, as you call it, small ball.
Money ball.
Absolutely. I think Moneyball is probably the most brilliant thing that we have possible. I love that movie, and I like how it goes so much into depth about his thinking of how he develops a baseball team that I'm like, wow, that is brilliant. Because yeah, it might take 3 guys to replace one, but guess what? You're getting 3 guys that can contribute, and you don't have to just rely on one. I think the whole difference now that we look at is that it's not your typical, hey, we need to get on base every time. It's we get on base and then it's a big bomb. That's what we focus on now. Or like now when you look at back then, somebody like Nolan Ryan or Greg Maddox or Tom Glavine or somebody like that in general, when they pitched back then, it wasn't about how fast they could throw. It was more of that finesse. How good is your curveball? How good is your breaking ball? Something like that. But now when you look at nowadays, they want to know how fast you can throw a ball. That is like one of their biggest things they want to focus on. Focus on that fastball. It doesn't need to be like that. It needs to be more of a finesse pitcher. You need to be able to work your way around batters, not just because what happens when somebody pitches a fastball over and over and over again? Players start locking in after a while. That's what happens. And then you can only go 3 or 4 innings because they catch up to your fastball after a while. So you need to be more of a finesse pitcher. And I think that's what happened with Major League Baseball. It got away from the whole aspect of being that finesse guy. We need
Old school
guys. Huh?
Got away from the old school style. I mean, now it's all about analytics and all that, you know?
Yeah, and so because
yeah, speaking of that, sorry, Ace, but real quick, just to give you guys an example of what Ace is talking about. Tony Gwynn. We all know who that is, right? So his career batting average was 338. 338, one of the highest ever. It's 17th among the all-time leaders, okay? He would have had to have gone 0 for 1,183 for his batting average to fall under 300 for his career. And now we celebrate guys that are hitting 40 home runs and batting 265.
Yeah, because these teams don't care anymore. They want to look at your numbers, be like, how many home runs did he hit? How many RBIs did he had? Oh, he hit 30 bombs with 90 ribbies. Okay, I don't care. He's batting at 217. I don't care. It's good enough. He's jacked 30 out. But why? Why? That's not the same anymore.
Well, it showed you a lot a couple of years ago when what was the guy? Carlos Pena. And Tampa Bay, he hit 38 home runs the year before. He batted 222 with 38 home runs. No one would sign him the next year. The Cubs, trying to bring in some firepower, gave him a 1-year, $20 million deal, and he hit 222 the year before. But he struck out 170-something times. Like, that's insane. You get $20 million for striking out more than once a game.
Wasn't Pena one of the focal points in Moneyball too with the A's?
Yeah, he
Or
was. No, he was.
Okay.
He was.
So I got a question for you guys. Since you guys are both Braves fans, how will you compare this team that's getting built now back to the mid-'90s? I mean, do you see a lot of comparison, or do you see a totally different?
Oh man, you just threw out an excellent question, and I'll tell you what, I can look at this comparison now, and I can actually look back at the '90s, and I'll tell you why. Because when you think about the '90s, you think about Glavine, Maddox, and Smoltz. Look at the guys we have now. I understand we went out and got a Smiley and a Morton, but those are going to be the back end guys. Those are going to be your 4 and 5. Those are not going to be your 1, 2, or 3. Morton on another team, he might be the 2. He might be your 3, but you're not going to be there. We now have a Mike Soroka, a Max Fried, and an Ian Anderson, that all these guys at some point could be Cy Young Award winners. So these guys, this team, especially the pitching staff, reminds me of the 90s with Glavine, Maddox, and Smoltz. And I think, especially with these guys, if we can keep them long-term, we're going to go back to the way it was, and we're going to win multiple division titles. Hopefully, we'll get a few rings in there, but we're going to win multiple division titles. Now, J-Mac, do you feel the same way?
I do. It takes me back to 1998. 98, which was the greatest rotation of all time, in my opinion, that year for Atlanta. So you had Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz. Your 4 and 5 guys, by the way, that year were Kevin Millwood, who won 14 games and had an ERA under 3. And then your 5th starter, number 5, the guy starting every 5th day and sometimes skipping starts because it was a day off. Your 5th starter was Kent Merker, who still won 12 games and still had an ERA under 4, and that's your 5th starter in the lineup. That's probably the greatest rotation of all time for a season, no doubt. And I think this team could be close. I think Ian Anderson, it's a little early. He's played great, don't get me wrong, but I think it's a little early to say he's gonna be that good. He only had 6 starts last year or something, so it's a very small sample size. But the small sample size is good.
Did you see what he did in the playoffs?
No, I'm not arguing with you. I'm not saying he's not good. I'm just saying you're going off of 6 starts, which you have to, because that's all we have right now, and those 6 starts puts him right there. Not disagreeing.
Well, yeah,
but let's wait and see when he has 60 starts if he's in the same position. That's all I'm saying. The first 2, now Soroka and Fried, I'm with you all the way. Those guys have proven themselves. I got no issues with that. I think Ian Anderson is the one. But if he could pitch the way he did last year in those 6 starts, we're fine.
And the only reason that I'm willing to throw that out there for Ian Anderson right now is because he is the first rookie in Major League history in his first 2 starts to beat not only Boston, but he also beat Yankees. And the back-to-back starts, Boston and the Yankees. And then he goes to the playoffs, and the dude doesn't allow a run until the World Series against the Dodgers. Like, that's a freaking remarkable run as a rookie. That's just something you don't see.
You're absolutely right. I completely agree with that. Well, it wasn't down year for the Red Sox. That's all I'll say. I mean, it was a down year for them, but it's still remarkable nonetheless.
Yeah, I can see what you guys are both saying, and J-Mac, like you said, you only got 6 starts from this one guy. Let's see once the film gets out on this guy, see where he's at. But yeah, I see a bright future for you guys and the Atlanta Braves. No question. All right. So with that being said, a little off topic, but it was a good topic. Topic number 5 or 6, I guess now. Wacky sports moments of all time. J-Mac, what do you got for me?
Oh boy, there's a few you could pick from. But I'm sorry to do this to you, Brandon. I do like you. I do. But I gotta ask. The wacky sports moment for me is when you had, these are the guys that are here. I'm gonna name off some guys now. You had Chris Carter, Randy Moss.
Oh,
You scored 500 points in the regular season. You went 15-1. Your fate relied on a kicker who hadn't missed all year long. And he missed. And you lost in the championship.
yeah.
You talk about wacky. Like, what are the odds that a guy who hasn't missed all year going down to kick the game-winning kick, and probably one of the top 3 offenses of all time, by the way. I'm not even going to deny that. And then he misses. How much did that hurt, by the way? I have to ask.
Well, it hurt. I mean, that was the closest, I think, and probably the best team we had. The funny part about that is I was at a Super Bowl party, and it came down to that moment, and all I hear in the background is this lady, one of my uncle's friends. He's going to miss it. And it's just like, no, he's not going to miss it. And of course, he missed it. That game, though, I think Dennis Green got out coached. So, but we won't talk about that now. But like you said, biggest offense, most powerful. I don't know why you're not throwing it up to Randy Moss every time. So, all right, Ace, wacky sports moment.
My wacky sports moment, I'm going to actually stay on the MLB side that we were talking about, because I have never seen a play like this in my life. It was actually when Gene Segura stole first base. And what I mean by that, yeah, I know your face is like, what the heck? Yeah. No. All right. So it was the strangest play that you will ever see in your life in Major League Baseball. So basically, Gene Segura just walked. He had just got to first base. So then what happens? On his next play, he steals second base on the next pitch. So then what happens? The batter behind him, which is Ryan Braun, hits a ground ball. So Gene Segura gets confused, starts heading towards third base, and he's like, nope, I got to run back. And he runs back to second base. Well, Ryan Braun rounds first, starts running to second base. So Ryan Braun slides into second at the same time. So they come up and they tag Braun, and Gene Segura's thinking, oh, I'm out. So he starts walking back. towards the dugout, still in the baseline, may I say. And the umpires were like, Gene, you're not out. So instead of running back to second base, he runs back to first base, and he's standing on first base and like, he's safe. So he stole second base, then went back and stole first base. And then the funny thing was the very next pitch, he attempted to steal second base, and he got thrown out at second base. So he sold second and then sold first again.
Oh, wow. I have to look that one up. I don't remember that one.
Yeah, that was crazy.
So I got 2, and one is kind of a trivial question, one after I tell you which one it is. But I'm going to go back to March 27th, 91. Rodney McRae, when he ran through the wall in a minor league game for the Vancouver Canadians after he made the grab.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how the guy did not knock himself out, but that was a heck of a grab. So the one that I really want to go with is March 24th, 2001, spring training. Randy Johnson, Arizona Diamondbacks, when he hit the bird.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, but after looking that up, I kind of got a trivia question out of that. Who was batting?
Who were they playing?
Oh, geez. I didn't even write that one down, actually.
So I believe they were
Was
talking.
it Bonds?
No, it wasn't Bob.
No, they were actually talking about this the other day. I don't know why it's escaping my mind because they were actually talking about this. But the name is actually escaping my mind at the moment.
Okay. So, after I was looking it up, because I got conflicting reports on who this guy was related to. It was Kelvin Murray, uncle of Arizona Cardinals Kyle Murray. Some reports are saying it was the father, and I'm just like, wait a minute. But yeah, no, when I saw this topic first, that's the first moment that jumped in my head was that one. So, but anything else we want to cover, guys, before we call it a show? Anything that jumps out at you guys?
I think that's all I got.
Okay.
It's a great show.
Yeah,
A lot
great
out
show.
there.
But I do want to touch on one thing, and I hope you guys cover it Saturday or Sunday during your wrestling. I want to send out my prayers to the wrestling world on the loss of Pat Patterson, big icon in wrestling, first Intercontinental champ. I was sad to hear he passed. So that's my final thoughts. So with that being said, J-Mac, hit up our last sponsor, Misty Metals.
Heck yeah. Misty Meadows, and they are an Oregon-made store here in Bandon, Oregon. They have 7 Oregon-made stores in Oregon. Not all of them are named Misty Meadows. They're all different names. This is this particular one. They are at, let me find the address, and I'm struggling, and I'm sorry. On Highway 101 in Bandon. I believe it's 68033. Sounds right to me. And I was going to get their phone number because you can give them a call and order stuff. They have a Facebook page. They are online. 541-347-2575. Everything is made in-house. They don't use any fillers. They don't use any high fructose corn syrup. And I'll tell you, I bought something there. They have, and Brandon, you're going to know this one. They have strawberry rhubarb jelly.
All right. Yeah.
With fresh rhubarb. I'm telling you,
I'm gonna have to,
good stuff.
Kind of searching around their website a little bit. I might have to place an order.
Yeah.
All right, Ace. How can our lovely viewers become viewer of the month, and what do they get?
Simple. All you have to do to become viewer of the month is just comment on our shows. That's all you have to do. When you're watching our shows, just go ahead and leave a comment. And if we see your comment, we will do our best to answer the question. And we don't even care if it's a dumb comment or whatever. You know what? We might give you a hard time, but that's completely okay. It's just a comment. That's just how it is. So, yes. So, just become the viewer of the month by comment. And then at the end of the month, we add up all the comments that everybody left. And the person that has placed the most comments, guess what? You become viewer of the month, and then you win one of those ASAP shirts. And when you win one of those ASAP shirts, we send it to you ASAP.
All right. So, Ace.
Yes.
Let's say somebody doesn't want to be have their comments shared, but like the show, like the lovely lady sitting behind you over your right shoulder. How can she get a shirt?
Well, so if somebody wants a shirt and they're nervous to come on a comment because they're like, man, I don't know what I'm going to say. Even Christmas is coming up and you're like, man, I'm stuck. I don't know what to get them. And you like ASAP Network? Well, guess what? You can actually order a shirt from us. All you have to do is hit up somebody on the network and let us know. Now, right now, this says $25, but guess what? You can actually get a shirt for $14.99. You can get one for $14.99 plus shipping and handling. So, who would not want to walk around in these lovely shirts? These shirts are awesome. You're going to love them. So, just order. Hit up anybody on the ASAP network and get one of those shirts.
Yeah, can't wait to get mine. So that's going to do it for Ace J-Mac. We also want to give a shout out to Nate the Great, who's running the behind the scenes network stuff. Nate, if you want to pop yourself on and say good night to everybody.
He's having connection problems, so he won't be able to do that tonight.
Yeah.
But we do thank you, Nate. We know you're listening.
Thank you, Nate. So,
yep. All right.
What programs we got tomorrow? Anything tomorrow?
Let's see. Tomorrow's Thursday, so we'll have Real Talk tomorrow.
Yep.
Oh, yes. The big debate, the finals.
Yep.
So tune into that to find out who walks away with being the best debater on the ASAP network.
All right. And I'm going to take us down out of here. Hey, thanks for coming on tonight, Brandon. Always a joy.
One day we'll have all four of us on.
One day. One day. We'll figure this thing out.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Ace, it's good seeing you.
You too.
Night.
Night.
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making the plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're eye in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays. Like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. Network. All sports, all plays. Network. We on top of our game. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays.